Hey, stats class. Sorry I'm not there again today, but I will see you next week on Monday. All right. So for today, the first part of our lesson today, we want to look at page 9. And it's the section I had mentioned when we went over the different components of the book. Every chapter has this section, what can go wrong? And I love this part of the book. I wish more textbooks would do this because it points out just some common errors, things that people do. So we're going to go through, there's just 3 bullet points here of common mistakes that people make about the information we've done in this chapter. So the first one says, don't label a variable as categorical or quantitative without thinking about the question you want it to answer. So it says the same variable can sometimes take on different roles. So, to quantitative, remember, is a number value of some kind, and categorical is a label, even though sometimes it is numbers. It might be a catalog number or something like that, but it doesn't have any kind of numeric value. It's just a label. So make sure you are careful of that. Bullet point number 2 says, just because your variable values are numbers, don't assume it's quantitative. So like I just said, categories and identifiers are often given some kind of numerical label. Don't let that fool you into thinking just because it's got numbers in it, it has to be quantitative. So again, looking at your context. And then the last bullet point is always be skeptical. Makes us statisticians sound like we're negative people or something like that, but that's not it. It says one reason to analyze data is to discover the truth. Even when you're told a context for the data, it may turn out that the truth is a bit or maybe even a lot different than that. The context colors our interpretation of the data. So those who want to influence you influence what you think can slant the context. A survey that seems to be about all students may in fact report just the opinions of those who visit a fan website or something like that. The question that respondents answered may have been posted or the questions may have been posted in a way that influences their responses. So we will talk about that more later. It's called leading questions, where, well, a question like, are you for or against Black Lives Matter, or don't you think Black people count? Well, of course, Black people count. So you're going to say, well, I am for Black Lives Matter then. And that's not really a good question then, because, there might be reasons that someone opposes the concept of or the organization of Black Lives Matter because of the way they're getting working right now, at least on how their message is coming across. It doesn't mean that they think less of Black people or Asian people or Hispanic people or any group. But, the way the question was posed, you're only going to give one response. Of course, I, support it because I support Black people or something like that. I don't know if that's the best example, but we'll talk more about, the way questions are posed so that they don't influence the answers. So again, in a year of presidential elections, we're bombarded with all kinds of statements and statistics and different things like that. And you just always want to be skeptical. Is that really the right context, or did they take it out of context? Or did they only ask a certain group of people? Maybe they stood on a college campus outside a certain I don't even want to, maybe outside the art building, and are asking questions about Are you uh, against a candidate who is wanting to cut spending for arts programs? Well, that's probably not the best place to ask that question, because you're asking people who do art if they're for or against somebody who is proposing legislation to cut back on funding arts. So probably not, I would be very skeptical of the results of something like that if they say, 95% of the people are opposed against this candidate. Well, no, 95% of people who support the arts maybe are, but that's not 95% of the people. So again, you just have to be very careful of those things. So there are some homework problems I want you to continue with. And so let's stop here with the video and do those homework problems, and then take your break, and then we'll come back to the last part of this chapter 1.